Hello everyone, this is your host, Gemma, bringing health and wellness conversations from North Idaho and across this region. I am so excited to chat with the entrepreneurs, creatives, and believers as we journey together to connect more deeply to ourselves, our earth, and our communities. Cheers to shining bright and supporting local. Welcome to Vibrant Living Conversations. I'm your host, Gemma. For today's interview, I'm talking with Jenny Wigglesworth, founder of Liveable Me, an online sustainable and fair trade education resource. I'm so happy to have found Jenny right here in Coeur d'Alene to enlighten us about the ethics of the fashion world and specifically fast fashion. So thank you for joining me, Jenny.
Thanks for having me on. I'm very, very blessed.
My absolute pleasure. So let's dive in. What is your story and your passion behind creating Liveable Me?
So Liveable Me stems from first the word livable, which has to do with livable wages. So that comes from the fair trade industry and what's going on within the fashion industry overall. So that's where that part comes from. And then the me is more of a reflection of us individually, because we all play a part in what's happening within fashion. And it's kind of a charge to allow us to kind of take responsibility and give us tools, hopefully through education, to do something about it.
I love it. You're on point. You know it. So I read a few of your blog articles, which were super fun, but knowing that your history, your background's in fashion and design. Mm-hmm. So how have you taken your background and how's your journey, I guess, led you to actually getting to this point?
So yeah, I have a fashion design background and I did own for quite a long time a ready-to-wear brand, which was completely sustainable and completely organically made here in the United States. That was a feat for sure, because this was 10 years ago when I was straight out of college and, going for it. I had a lot of retail experience under my belt. I had some design experience, but I kind of just went for it. And it was a struggle because you're going up against the industry, which does things very much traditionally, working with countries overseas. The margins were so much smaller on my end because I wasn't willing to sacrifice those things. So it was a little harder, but it was successful. I was able to get into some smaller boutiques. I was able to tell my story, and those that care and had like-minded passion and interest were the ones that ended up buying and selling to, of course, their consumer. So that's kind of my fashion design end. And that's what started it all, because obviously fashion's been around forever. I mean, fashion is what we live and breathe, and it's an art, and it's been around since people have been wearing clothing. And if you read, I talk about some of the books that are involved in fast fashion and sustainable trends. And basically since the 80s is when fast fashion became something. Prior to the 80s, it was really just people still making clothing well, people getting clothing tailored to their bodies. They usually owned like 3 or 4 pieces or 3 or 4 complete looks because that's what we could afford, because clothing was more expensive then. But then the 80s changed everything, from the top of the line when we're talking about fashion magazines, who sets the trends, to the buyers, to the manufacturing. And then since then, it has snowballed to something that I don't think anyone could have ever imagined. And then when you educate yourself on the atrocities that are happening because of fast fashion, which I don't know if you're going to ask me on these questions, but once you're educated in what's going on in these countries such as China and Bangladesh and various other ones, you can't uneducate yourself. So once you know, you can't unknow. And for myself, I just felt like there's not enough voices talking about this. There's not enough education surrounding this, because I know that there are people in our community, even here in Idaho, that if they knew what was going on, they would care.
Yeah, for sure. There was something that happened in the 80s across the board, right? Our culture went from like slower quality. And I mean, the food was the same, fashion was obviously the same, and it was this convenience. And at the time, of course, we thought it was a great thing. Like, look at it, it's more affordable and fast. And And now like reflecting on it, of course, we're like a few generations later where we're like, what is actually meaningful? And what have those convenience fast processes done to what actually means something to us? The planet, people,
Mm-hmm.
families, culture. Now it's just like use and throw away, which just makes
Yeah.
my skin crawl, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
coming full circle, we're going back to farmers markets, we're getting back to real food, we're getting back to, and this fast fashion for me is new. I don't honestly know a lot about it. So I'm so happy that you're here to tell us more. So
Yeah. It's been kind of a roller coaster ride, even for myself, having been in the industry for so long and having done so much research around it. You think you're doing one thing, good. And then you come to find out, oh, actually, that company also it has their hands in, the tar or whatever you want to call or use as an analogy.
yeah.
And so for myself, coming from my design background and then it's kind of stemmed away for fashion. As you know, I did some other businesses in the meantime, but my pull and my heart has always come back to the people involved. And, it's one thing to say, yes, I love the climate, and that's a huge part of it. Having fast fashion or fashion generally as a whole is the number 2 reason why global warming is occurring. It's the number 2 industry that is basically killing the earth. So we do need to do something about it. And when you hear statistics like every person wears their garment, whatever it might be, shirt, sweater, whatever, 10 times and throws it away, not gives it away, throws it away. So the landfills is a whole nother problem of fast fashion. And then on the flip side, we've got the people that are involved in the garment districts, mostly in China and Bangladesh, as I mentioned previously.
Right.
And these people aren't being paid livable wages. On average in China, they're paid $130 a month, which is nothing. They can't support their families. They can barely afford food to eat once a day, maybe, depending on the situation. And then in Bangladesh, it's even worse. It's about $30 a month. And a lot of those people aren't paid at all. And so those are the people that are actually paid wages. Then we've got a whole nother group of people that aren't paid a dime, but they are thankful because they have a roof over their heads. And these are the quotes that we get from the people that are working in these garment districts. So story after story of real people that are just marginalized, and these companies, they need to be held accountable for what's going on. And the only way that we can really do that is by changing our buying habits.
Right. Change the demand, take the demand
Yeah.
away, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. So the people, I know, what else had you mentioned about fast fashion is obviously damaging the earth,
Mm-hmm.
the textures and the textiles and the fabrics. How
Mm-hmm.
are those not sustainable?
Yeah, so they're made mostly with plastic. So we know it as polyester, right?
Okay,
So
right.
polyester is horrible for the environment. It's basically like throwing toxins into the air and hoping that they go away. And if you look at your labels on your clothing, most clothing that we buy is 95 to 100% polyester. It's easy to make, it's fast, and it cuts the bottom line for companies so that they are able to make more of it. It is definitely one of the underlying issues to fast fashion. And there are companies, I don't know if you want me to name them, but there are definitely companies that are known to be fast fashion warehouses like Forever 21.
Mm,
Everybody knows that's a fast fashion place. You're
right.
getting cheap clothing, monetarily cheap, made cheap, right? But it going in.
Right.
You may not know the behind the scenes, but you kind of know that if you can get a top for $5, there's something wrong there.
Right. Right.
Companies like Walmart, even Target, Ross, Kohl's. I name these companies because not only are these companies making clothing fast and undermining people, but they're lobbying against fair trade agreements. So they don't want to change because it messes with their bottom line. They want to continue making more money than enough and at the sacrifice of other people, at the lives and costs of other people. So there's a great documentary out there if people are interested in listening. It's called True Cost.
Okay.
And I think it's on Netflix, but don't quote me on that. But True Cost is basically questioning the cost, right? Because
Right.
there's a cost for everything in this world.
Yeah.
And with fashion right now, unless you as the consumer are deciding to do things differently, the cost is people's lives. And so I know that's deep and kind of dark, but like the reality is we are wearing people's lives, and most of them don't live to see 30. It's just not worth it. We have so many great options out there. It's
Right.
just not worth people's lives.
Right. And the planet, I
Yeah.
mean, the planet turns out that it's all of our homes right now.
Yes.
So when it's making that much of an impact, it is affecting us, whether we want to believe it or not. And yeah, this is completely eye-opening. So how has learning about fast fashion changed your life? Let's start to flip it and move towards your vision and how we can do better.
Yeah. So for one, fashion is art. I used to be a model. I've always been in the fashion industry and I love it. It's my way and many people's way of expressing who you are. It allows us to be identified as the heart and soul that breathes inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, fashion is intrinsic to who I am and how I want to be represented in the world. So I definitely love fashion. Don't get me wrong. So with that, I think there are so many great ways we can continue to embrace fashion in a positive way. One of those ways is thrifting. Thrifting is a beautiful way to not only find something that's renewable, but give back to the world and also have a one-of-a-kind look that no one else can touch because it's the only look there in the store. Like you're not competing with, every Sue, Mary, and Holly that wants to have the same look as you. Like you get to be identified as unique, your own style, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So yeah, thrifting for sure. And we have a lot of great thrift stores, consignment stores here locally.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening, you can look them up online, but I know that most towns and cities have a plethora of great thrift stores.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And I feel like they're just doing it better. I remember back like even 10 years ago, it was like thrift stores were kind of gross. And you just thought like, maybe I'll get my Halloween costume there, but I'm not going to wear a regular look from a thrift store,
Yeah.
And some people are really creative. I mean, I remember going with girlfriends and they would pull amazing looks out of a hat, and I was stunned that they found that from a thrift store. But
well, some of them, like the organization has gotten better. Like I feel like when I was younger, you were like digging. You're like at a garage sale. Now they're like color code bin, they're just way more organized. So it has become trendy, which is cool for exactly what we're talking about. But even, it's funny because those prices, you're like, they're more than they used to be, but it's like, you're reusing it. It's not going to the landfill. You're finding joy in picking your own fashion. Exactly like you said, you can find so many different styles at the thrift store. I love it so much.
And you're not contributing to waste, you're not contributing to hurting the environment or contributing to unlivable wages. So you're productive to the counter. So you're doing two things. It's kind of like a triple whammy, you're helping the environment, you're helping people, and you're helping yourself get a great new outfit.
Yeah.
So, and also your local community, like it could be a foursome of greatness in shopping thrift. I know locally, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that. Yeah, you're helping your community. That's where the money's probably going back to support, right?
Yes, yes. So like here in Coeur d'Alene, we have Beaumont Luxe, we have all the Beaumont stores. Of course, you have traditional Goodwill, you've got your St. Vincent's. So we have a lot here locally. If you go to Sandpoint, they have Azalea's, which is a beautiful store. She definitely is doing things right. So I love thrifting. So that's one way.
Yeah.
The other way is you can repurpose your own wardrobe. And I'm going to be speaking to this more and doing a lot more blogging on this because I think some people get stuck with just seeing the same thing over and over and not knowing how to repurpose it into a new look or make it look trendy or, whatever.
Right.
But you could use what's in your own wardrobe. So rework your wardrobe. And then the other thing is I'm going to be launching something called naked parties.
Okay.
which sounds kind of
Hey.
like sketchy, but basically what they are, we're not literally naked, but you're bringing clothes to a social party
Mhm.
where other people are also bringing clothes, and it's very organized with tickets and things, and it'll be on my website. But basically you're getting to trade out your old clothes, which will be someone else's new clothes, and vice versa.
I love that. So fun.
So they're
So
naked
fun.
parties, totally fun. It's a way to bring the community together and trade clothes, and again, give back to sustainable and fair.
I love that. And
So
that's an interesting piece, because even with the like going shopping in your own closet, which I have started doing more and more in the last like several years, it's like I don't need anything new. My closet is full. I have beautiful jewelry. I have shoes, and going in there with this creative mindset. And I love that you said in one of your blogs too that you didn't think you're creative, and then you're like, wait, I love fashion. And I know so many women that are that way. They're like, I'm not creative. I'm like, well, you look like $1 million, so whatever you did is creativity coming out in some way. But
right.
going in and just seeing it as a like fun opportunity, like I just think if we can find more small pleasures in our day-to-day life anyway. So when you get the opportunity to get dressed in the morning and express yourself and pull colors together and different pieces that you're like, this is me. It's just a fun way to start the day. Tune into yourself, focus on the joy of getting dressed rather than seeing it as just a mundane task that we do daily, right? I think it's flipping things on its head.
Yes, exactly. And we all have creativity in us. We are all made beautifully, and to have the desire to be creative and innovative in our own way. And that's what makes us so uniquely human.
Right. No, for sure. Well, and I think
Yeah.
shopping has also become something that fills us up in ways that maybe
Mhm.
we can observing it and realizing like I've been there, right? Like my younger self compulsively is like, I'm going shopping. And I mean, at that point it could serve friend time. And sometimes it's like, I just need some retail therapy. But
Mhm.
observing that and just having this moment of being like, wait a second, I don't need anything more in my closet. This bigger picture that you're talking about, what are we doing for the planet? What am I doing
Yes.
for myself? Like connecting, just living more intentionally and mindfully, I think is just really what we're talking about here.
Exactly. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, we've all been there. I used to be a stylist as well. It was kind of like layered over my design. And I remember during my stylist days, it was all about the trends because I was styling people who were paying me, to do it. But it got kind of sickening after a while because you're constantly chasing after someone else's idea of what is popular and trending.
Right.
And I just think that we as a people need to just change that way of thinking. If we could just think more minimally,
Mhm.
but even on top of that, more like we're saying, creatively and repurposing things in new ways that are stylish to our own being and not to what the magazine says looks good on us.
Right.
I had Miss Emily Harris that owns Mrs. Emily on my first podcast.
Yeah.
So definitely if people are interested in design and fashion and doing things the right way, listen to that. But she is a designer, self-made. She started the traditional route in New York City and decided like, I don't want to do this. And then she decided to just launch her own brand. And it is so beautiful. And in everything she does, she thinks about a woman's body, which is another whole subject. But a lot of the fashions out there, they're not made for women. They're made for, I'm not really sure, aliens. Like,
14-year-old
I
boys.
mean, yeah, like women do not look good in most of the trends that come out. And I'm not really sure where they're going with it, but we're all beautiful and uniquely made. And so there is no one size fits all fashion out there. So trends, even in thinking of it that way, don't make sense. And so if we can reroute that thinking, I think it could just change fashion. It could change all of these things for good.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. I'm curious about brands that are doing it right. What are they having to do to even make money. If there's this competition that is doing it for so cheap out of a different country, and will you talk a little bit about that and how we can support it?
For sure. So this is basically how fashion works. You've got the fast fashion ones that are the behemoths of fashion that are either unknown or known, and they're the ones that are doing it with huge margins, making the billions of dollars, and basically treating people unkind. And then you've got the thrifting, which we've already talked about, right? Which is on this side, which is just repurposing the abused fashion, but because it's repurposed, we're doing it the right way, and it's way less, so we can afford that. Right. The middle area is where you find very expensive fashion. It doesn't always have to be expensive, but because they're paying people livable wages and sustainable fabrics, those are two areas of dollar signs, which is why these two arenas don't compete there. So when I look at it for myself, because I am a typical middle America mom who can afford to always shop in this space, right, I tend to shop mostly thrifting and save money to have these unique, beautiful pieces that I don't have very much of, like a beautiful pair of boots that I've saved for, or a coat that will last me my lifetime, but it's going to cost me, at the front. Right. But it will probably last forever because it's well made, it's breathable fabrics, all of those good things. The ones that are doing it well in this arena, Patagonia is a huge one. So Patagonia is a known brand, big brand, but they do it well. So at the beginning, they had to sacrifice probably a lot. I don't know the facts on this, but probably they were in the red for a while, right, just getting things together, but they started small. And now they're huge because their followers are people like myself, like you, who care, right, and are going to put money aside to buy quality coats or quality boots every once in a while. Another company, there's a laundry list. And if you go, I'm going to give you an app in just a second where people can look that up. Another great company is Fortress. And Fortress is a smaller company out of Peru. And they make shoes with leather, really great material, 100% leather, well made. And just the story behind every pair of shoes is so beautiful. So they're another company that's like 5 stars doing all the things right. But it's going to cost you, it's going to cost you a little bit more. But I have 2 pairs of Fortress shoes and they're so well made. These shoes, they're not like these knockoffs you get in chain stores. They're shoes that feel like you're going back to the 1920s where they're making them to your foot.
Oh, love it.
So yeah, quality. You're getting quality of design and breathable materials that last a lifetime.
Love it.
Yeah, so those are some of the companies that are doing it really well. And if you want to know more, for your listeners, download the app Good On You. It's called Good On You. I definitely talk about it a lot on my social media. And it's free, it's completely free. And it's educators like myself who are just going out there and doing the hard research. And then they're graded. So let's use Fortress for an example. They grade it on ethical standards. So in fair trade, they have to be safe. They have to be paying a livable wage. They have to be good working environments overall. And then there's the environmental issues. So the product has to be clean. It has to give back to the earth. Not only that, but in their manufacturing processes. So they have to have a clean facility, meaning clean, no biohazards. There's a rigorous test. So if you go onto Good On You, they'll talk about that briefly, but they give them 5 stars. So you could have a 1 star, you could have no stars, or you could have 5 stars. And Fortress has 5 stars.
Okay.
So, and I believe Patagonia has 5 stars as well, which is really hard to get to because of the standards. And then they also talk about like animal cruelty and a couple other things, but it's a really good app just to test your major designers. You can go into your closet and see like where the clothing in your closet lies on the test. But definitely if you're purchasing new, I always go to that app to make sure that I am contributing towards a good company.
Love it. That's
yeah.
Oh gosh, yes. Well, we're in the times too of education and knowledge and kindness. I think it's coming back to like people and humanity. And if the last couple of years haven't taught us anything, but it's like what are the people behind this? Like, what are we doing? What do we need to do to slow down and change our ways? And I'm so thankful for resources like this and people like you that are all pushing it out there so that we can, I mean, like you said, once you know better, you do better.
Yes. And you don't have to do everything. I always say, start with just asking the question. We're not going to demonize the process. Just ask the question. If you still shop at Target occasionally, we're not going to judge you for that, but at least ask the questions. And when hopefully you're making better, more ethical decisions.
I love that. Yeah. Well, here's a question. As a stylist and some people that I've talked to are like, the thrift store, I get overwhelmed. I don't know what to, do you have any just like fun, fashiony, styly tips for people that might be like, I shop at Target all the time, but okay, how do I even start shopping at a thrift store instead and still looking like $1 million?
Well, I think the key is styling your body type. So a lot of people, again, like we addressed earlier, shop the trends, which just doesn't work for us.
Right.
It is not a successful way to shop. So I say style your body type. And if your listeners aren't aware of what that is, I do talk about it in my blogs. I'm going to be doing more blogging about that because we all have different bodies. The typical shape is, I like to use shapes instead of fruit. I think that was like an 80s thing as well. But like a triangle means you have wider hips than your shoulders. So you're more of a triangle shape. There's the double triangle, which is an hourglass figure. There's a circle, which is you're just more round shaped. There's the rectangle shape, which is also known as the boyfriend or athletic shape. So you're more rectangle, so you don't really have a waistline.
Right.
And so when you think about your shape, for instance, if you're a rectangle, like that's what I am, I have to define my shape. Right. So I really have to make sure that whatever I'm buying, the top hits at a certain place where it's defining a waist as opposed to losing a waist. Like I can't wear a lot of baggy things. What I'm wearing today, I have a shorter, can't really see it, but I have a shorter top so that you can see my waist, and it's very much slimming. So it's slimming to my waistline. And that's how I can get away with wearing a cardigan or a duster over it, because it's wide and open so you can see my waist, and I can still get away with wearing a nice sweater. If I was wearing a sweater that was closer to my body, my whole body's now lost. And so
it's like a blob.
So that's really important. If you are a triangle shape where your hips are wider than your chest or your shoulders, you definitely need to find some shoulder things. I often will tell clients to add a capped sleeve. Like cap sleeve should be your favorite go-to blouse, because that will automatically draw the eye to your waist, whether you have a slimming top on or not, because now your hips are balancing out your shoulders. So little tricks like that is key. The other thing is color. So you should have a go-to color, like black, white, of course, those should be in your capsule closet. But apart from black and white and gray, you need to have a go-to color that makes your eyes pop, that balances out your skin tone. For me, that is Kelly green. Kelly green is my color. And it's not a trendy color, but I know whenever I wear it, I get compliments. It brings out my eyes. So if you don't know your go-to color, find out, because that will change your life when it comes to fashion.
I love that. Well, and what is trendy, right? Like you get in Style magazine, which I love. I honestly love it. And I nowadays, more so than before, is you see all different women in there. And how do you want to define trendy? I think I loved what you said before, where like, how about we redefine it into honoring our own body shape, into the colors that match your eyes or make you pop or make you feel alive, right? Like, let's define that word so it's not some mystical being that runs these magazines is defining trendy for us. It's ownership that we're like, we get to own this because we get to feel awesome in our bodies, whatever they look like.
Exactly. And also when you think about trending, I mean, really only top people in the fashion industry know what's going on in trends. You can look at a magazine and get, like you said, a number of different messaging coming from that. And you may totally miss the trending piece, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's really important to honor your body. I mean, how many times have you went out with your girlfriend and you decided what to wear? You didn't go resource your magazine. You're like, this looks good on me. I'm going to wear this.
Mhm.
And you got compliments on it.
Mhm.
And maybe if you were wearing what's trending, which right now is crop tops, we all don't look good in crop tops, like, I mean, for most of us who have had kids, that is not going to be a look where my friends are going to say, "Ooh, you should wear that again."
For sure. For sure. Well said. Oh, funny. And I think trendy, it's like, what makes you feel great? What makes you feel
Yes.
great in your own skin? I love it.
Yes.
Oh,
And we have a generation following us that cares less about trends and more about empowering other people, which is so amazing because that was not my generation.
I need to.
And I'm thinking, this is very enlightened for someone my daughter's age. My daughter's 13, and they care they care about things, but so much less about what other people think and way more about how they are making changes in the world, which to me is phenomenal from a 13-year-old perspective. If I had that kind of enlightenment at her age, I could have done so much more, you know?
Isn't that funny though? Because you're like, that is what the world needs now more than ever. And not that they haven't needed during our generation, but it's just funny that they do have that mindset and it is deeply needed. And there's changes to make. And this generation is like, bring it on. We're going to solve some stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, love it. Well, you've mentioned a couple of different things like capsule closet and styling. So I'll tell people that you've got great resources. Like you said, you've got your podcast. Instagram is my favorite to go through. You've got different ways to dress. And I'm sure you probably get more into your capsule closet. And we don't need a bazillion things like coming out of our closets. Like that is stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you have resources to help people narrow down to the basics. And
Yes.
yeah. So I'm
Yes. So
curious, I know your vision just changed for your company. So what is your vision? What are you excited about in the next couple of months, year, and what can we expect from you?
I mean, I'm big picture, so I like to think about the big picture, but as I said before, I don't want everyone to feel like they have to do it all. So I'm really just hoping to be a resource for everyone to come to liveableme.com and to get to know the designers that are doing it well, to get to know easy tips and tricks to figure out, like we talked about, wardrobe and capsule and all of those things that actually mean something to us on a day-to-day basis,
Mhm.
as well as big picture, like stop shopping these places. Here's some other places you could shop that are great and will give back to the world and to people. So I'm really refocusing from being retail to focusing all in on education and being that one-stop shop, meaning that one-stop place of resource for anyone who is interested. I focus more on women, men. It's important for men to be educated on this as well, but I don't know that demographic as well as I do women. Women have always been my heart. So most of what I talk about when it comes to style, capsule, all that is going to be directed towards women. But the bigger overreaching themes of sustainability and fair trade, of course, applies to everyone. So those are my hopes. Those are my dreams. I mean, I would love to see a movement happen where these bigger businesses are changing. I mean, I don't want anyone to fail. I want these bigger businesses to see that they need to change
Mhm.
or we will discontinue our shopping experience with them and honor people over product. That's my main underlying hashtag, people over product.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yes. So where's the best place for people to find you? Where do you like to point people?
I like them to go to my website, so liveableme.com, because that's where everything stems to. I mean, you can get to social media through the website. You can get to my podcast through the website. All of my resources are there, as well as my newsletter. So I do a weekly newsletter, and if you sign up for it, I send you a little empowering sticker that
Which is
you
so
can,
cute. Thank you.
yes. So you could always place that on your water bottle, which is trending, or you could put it on your car, but it's just a way to say thank you and to keep you engaged in the process.
Oh, I love that so much. Oh, great. Well, Do you have anything else that you wanted to touch on to share with the audience before we kind of wrap it up?
I think we covered a lot. The main thing is just to continue to ask questions and to know that even if you're one person, you can be part of the huge effect of changing the world.
I love that for sure. And step by step, like you were saying,
Yes.
don't like take this as an overwhelm, a reason to like flush out your closet and start over. Like step by step, go to a thrift store, get online and
Exactly.
learn more.
Exactly.
Well, I always like to end my conversations by asking who are a couple of people locally who inspire you to live vibrantly, as I like to say.
So, like I mentioned before, Beaumont is doing it well. She definitely cares about this community, and she also just cares about the whole process of sustainability. So I would definitely recommend going to her because not only is she providing a way to do things differently, but she really is all in when it comes to people and process and shopping local. So she would be one for sure. Her name is Brooke and she owns Beaumont, all the Beaumonts. I think there are, I want to say 5, including one that's opening in Athol.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, great resource. And then Misty Lake, who I interviewed a few days ago, who is also on the podcast,
Mhm.
she owns a company called Herb and Oil, which is a cream-based thing that has healed pets, humans. You can listen to the podcast, but it's all sustainable. It's all done fair trade. And she's just an inspiration as a person and as a professional in this area. You can find her urban oil products all over the place in Coeur d'Alene, but she also is just a motivational person and a delight to be around. So those are 2 people that I think of when I think of people who are making a difference locally.
Oh, I love that. It's so fun when you start having these conversations and the people that come into your life and realize that there's a whole group of people that really are out to make the world a better place and
Yes.
to do it right. So,
Yes. More than you think.
yeah, yeah. And I think right now it's easy to get stuck in the mire of life and pandemics and judging. And so
Mhm.
coming back to that positive and finding just people that want to make the world a better place. I love it. So thank you so
Yay.
much for joining me, Jenny. This has been a joy, and I'm excited to see how you continue to make the world a better place.
Well, thank you. Thank you again for having me on.
Thanks for joining us today. Fast fashion is a topic that I've honestly had my head in the sand about for a long time. But like most things that are cheap and convenient, it's too good to be true. And in retrospect, can we actually ever call fast fashion good when it's harming the planet, producers, and even ourselves as we are bogged down in quantities of clothes that mean nothing to us? Like with all vibrant living ways, it's about slowing down, understanding what you're consuming, and what it means for holistic health of the world, your community, and yourself. As I continue this journey of discovery and holistic living, I hope you join me as I get to know more awesome, inspiring people in this Inland West region. You can find me, my coaching, podcast, and social media through my website, gemmaputty.com. Please feel free to share, like, and let me know who you'd like to hear in the future. Sending all the love, light, and vibrancy. Until next time.